toxic algae outbreak devastates over 200 marine species along South Australian coast in what marine scientists are calling one of the most devastating ecological disasters in recent Australian history. A massive toxic algal bloom has killed more than 200 species of marine life along the coast of South Australia. The catastrophe, which has been expanding since March, now covers an estimated 4,500 square kilometers, an area nearly the size of Kangaroo Island, and continues to wreak havoc across sensitive marine ecosystems. Photos shared by conservationists and concerned citizens show a grim tableau of lifeless marine animals, fish, sharks, rays, and more, strewn across beaches in alarming numbers. This environmental emergency has been compared to a horror movie for fish, as marine life succumbs to oxygen-starved waters and lethal toxins. What is happening? Algal blooms are naturally occurring events where algae populations explode under the right conditions, particularly in warm, sunlit, and nutrient-rich waters. But this outbreak has proven extraordinary in both size and duration, lasting for months and growing with no clear end in sight. The bloom is largely composed of toxic algae species capable of releasing potent chemicals that deplete oxygen levels and damage vital organs in marine animals. This is unprecedented, said Dr. Vanessa Perrotta, a renowned wildlife scientist. We're not just seeing fish kills. This is a complete environmental collapse in affected zones. The bloom has continued to build with no sign of reversal. Brad Martin, South Australian project manager for the non-profit marine conservation group Ozfish Unlimited, explained the biology behind the devastation. The algae produce toxins that attack the red blood cells of marine animals, causing gill and tissue damage. At high densities, the algae also consume massive amounts of oxygen, suffocating everything in the vicinity. A mass die-off unfolding in real-time. Beaches from Mu Bay to Port Vincent have become graveyards for marine creatures. Local communities and tourists have reported swathes of dead animals, including stingrays, Port Jackson sharks, old whitefish, pufferfish, crabs, and even apex predators like great white sharks. A 3-meter specimen was recently found dead, bleeding internally and showing signs of severe toxic exposure. Images shared by Ozfish Unlimited show sharks and rays washed ashore with a disturbing reddish hue, a sign of hemorrhaging caused by the algae's toxins. The level of suffering is immense, Martin said. Many of these animals don't die immediately. They suffocate slowly, unable to escape. What's particularly troubling is that reef species, including small crustaceans and bottom dwellers, are among the most affected. Unlike fast-swimming fish that may relocate, these creatures are essentially trapped in place, unable to avoid the suffocating waters. Ecological and economic impacts. The long-term ecological consequences of this bloom could be severe. Coral reefs, already weakened by climate change, may take years to recover, if at all. Food webs have been disrupted, with large predators and scavengers losing key sources of prey. The potential loss of breeding grounds and juvenile nurseries could impact fish populations for generations. Commercial fisheries are already feeling the pain. Some operations have voluntarily closed harvest areas to avoid contaminated catches and further ecological damage. "We can't fish if the ocean is dead," one local fisherman said. "Even if it's safe for humans who wants to eat something from a place where everything is dying." Coastal tourism, another economic pillar for South Australian communities, is also taking a hit. Visitors are canceling bookings due to the overpowering stench and heartbreaking scenes of mass marine death along the shoreline. "We're seeing a dip in local business, and that's on top of the emotional weight of watching our environment suffer," said a hotel owner in Victor Harbor. The climate connection. While algal blooms are a known natural phenomenon, experts warn that climate change is dramatically increasing their frequency, scale, and intensity. South Australia has been under a marine heat wave since September 2024, with ocean temperatures averaging 2.5 degrees Celsius higher than usual. Record-breaking heat since March has fueled this particular bloom, turning the region's coastal waters into a hotbed for toxic algae. "This is a climate-driven disaster," Dr. Perrotta stressed. Warmer oceans, more sunlight, and altered currents all contribute to creating the perfect conditions for these harmful blooms, and we're going to see more of them unless we tackle the root causes. Indeed, Australia has faced similar algal disasters before, notably in 2014. but none have matched the current outbreak in magnitude. That event, while harmful, was shorter in duration and far less destructive to marine life overall. Human health and safety. The algae responsible. For the bloom are not directly dangerous to humans in small doses, but public health warnings have still been issued. South Australia's Department for Environment and Water has advised residents and tourists to avoid swimming in discoloured waters or near foamy patches along the shore. High concentrations of the algae can cause skin irritation and respiratory issues such as coughing or difficulty breathing. Parents have been warned to keep children and pets away from affected beaches, as some marine toxins can accumulate on shorelines. Government and scientific response. The South Australian government, along with marine scientists and environmental organizations, continues to monitor the bloom using satellite imagery, water sampling, and on-the-ground surveys. However, no clear solution exists for halting the outbreak in the short term. "There's no silver bullet," said a spokesperson from the Department of Environment and Water. "Our focus right now is containment, assessment, and understanding how far the damage has spread." Researchers are calling for increased funding for ocean monitoring and early warning systems, along with stronger action on climate change and pollution, which they say contribute to nutrient overloads and warming seas. The road ahead. The environmental catastrophe unfolding in South Australia is a sobering glimpse of what lies ahead if climate and ocean health continue to deteriorate. For now, the full ecological and economic toll remains unknown. What is clear is that the marine ecosystems in the affected regions have been pushed to the brink, and recovery may take years, if not decades. "It's a warning from the ocean," said Dr. Perrotta, "and we'd be foolish not to listen." What you can do: avoid swimming in affected areas until official advisories are lifted, report sightings of dead marine life to local environmental authorities. Support conservation groups like Ozfish Unlimited, educate others about the links between climate change and harmful algal blooms, reduce your carbon footprint, and support clean energy initiatives. As the ocean gasps for breath off Australia's southern coast, one thing is certain: the time to act is now. John in ruins. The physical toll of the war is staggering. Gaza, already among the most densely populated regions on Earth before the conflict, now lies in ruins. The Israeli military has razed entire neighborhoods and cities, especially Rafah in the south, where most of Gaza's displaced population has been forced to shelter, often in makeshift tents or abandoned buildings. According to UN estimates, 70% of Gaza is now uninhabitable, and Israel's apparent goal is to squeeze the remaining population into an even smaller area near the Egyptian border. Lazzarini described Gaza's residents as human pinballs, constantly fleeing from one danger zone to another, only to find death and hunger wherever they go. Meanwhile, discussions about Gaza's future have taken an ominous turn. Behind closed doors, sources in Washington and Tel Aviv have reportedly floated proposals to rebuild Gaza as a Mediterranean Dubai, devoid of its native Palestinian population, governed by foreign actors and aligned with Israeli strategic interests. For Israel's far right, this is no longer just about Hamas, thus it's about reshaping the demographics of the region, potentially through forced displacement or permanent occupation. In other words, a future where Palestinians are erased. Never again? Lazzarini closed his interview with a stark warning for the international community. "We said never again, but we are letting it happen again on our watch. The inaction, the indifference, the political cowardice. It is monstrous." He traced the roots of the current crisis back to October 7, 2023, when Hamas-led fighters killed over 1,200 Israelis and took 251 hostages. That day, he said, marked the start of an Israeli response so overwhelming, so indiscriminate, that it now threatens to annihilate an entire civilian population. The path ahead. No one knows how or when this war will end. But one thing is clear: the legacy of the Gaza blockade will be long and painful. Whether seen as a tactical misstep, a war crime, or a genocide, the starvation of an entire population in full view of the world will remain a stain on the conscience of our time. What happens next? Continued war, political collapse in Israel, or a belated intervention by world powers may determine not only the fate of Palestinians in Gaza, but the future of global norms on humanitarian conduct in war. Whatever that future is, one thing seems certain: Peace is not around the corner. Thank you for watching InfoHub, your source for trusted news and insights. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay informed.